Welcome, guys, to Jesus Seed Ministries. It's been a while since we have recorded a video, but we're so blessed that you guys are here with us today. And we just decided to take some time off and seek the Lord. And we're here today to talk about whatever the Lord places on Alexa's heart right now.
Alexis. Well, it is on both of our hearts. It's been on our hearts for a while. Let me start by saying subscribe. If I sound like an official YouTuber, that's the goal. Just kidding. Also, click the bell if you want to get notifications when we post videos. We're not going to bombard you with too much, but only post when we're led. So, like you said, we took off time because the Lord wanted to get closer to us, and we needed to get closer to the Lord. And it was amazing. It's only been a couple weeks, but it just kind of secluding ourselves and surrendering to Him even more, and we've been edified and purified and pruned, and it's been great, and it never ends. But this was just a moment where we really needed to spend time with Him and take a break. So it was great. What's been on our hearts has been trials / faith in the midst of trials or making decisions. So that's a lot, but I know you get it.
It's almost like obedience too.
Yes, It's all of that. Because we're blessed through the testing, the trials, and the steps of faith that we take in the Lord. And there's so many areas of our lives where we've had to make a decision in the midst of a trial that made no sense carnally at all. Like our natural minds are like, why would you do something like that?
Can't comprehend it, yeah.
And the people around us,
they weren't seeing that revelation that we were receiving from the Lord, you know?
Because we each get our own revelation from God. And so we knew, hey, in these multiple situations we've been in, we knew, hey, this is what God's telling us to do. And if we're not obedient, then I don't want to be obedient to man, right? So we have very supportive people in our lives, and I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying sometimes people try to convince you that that's not the right decision, but when you have a
relationship,
yes, and you know in your heart that God's telling you to do something, especially if it doesn't make sense, just know, oh my gosh, I'm gonna jump in the air and scream and cry happy tears because God's going to bless me so much through this decision that makes no sense. I'm not saying you're gonna get a house on a hilltop.
And it might not even be like, I know for me, I used to think when they said God's gonna bless you, I would think, oh, financially.
Yeah.
It might not be that. It might just be a spiritual thing, like a spiritual revelation, a greater revelation that He wants to show you. You know, He might be pruning you. So that's a blessing too. Mm-hmm. So we can't discount that as well. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it might not be a house on a hilltop with perfect pink doors or whatever your dream house is. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're going to be rich forever and life's perfect. I'm saying the trials will never end, and the decisions and the steps of faith will never end, but He prunes us. And I don't know about you, but the best way that I can be blessed is through revelation of Jesus Christ and who He is and knowing Him more. And sometimes that's the blessing. And we know when we've gotten there, oh my gosh, because He's done these things in our lives that have just changed the course of our lives. And these are, a lot of the times it is in your physical world, because we are here and we have trials and things that we need to sustain our family. I don't want to be preaching a prosperity, life is perfect gospel. That's not what we're saying. We're saying blessings, which
could be anything that the Lord has for your life. It could be that. It could be a house. It could be literally anything. You know, God is good.
And He knows what you need.
Yeah. So.
And sometimes we think we know what we need. So we're like, God, that decision isn't what I want. Like, that doesn't make sense. But
oh my gosh. Like, for example, tell them about how we got to this house. Because that's a really good example.
Yeah. So one of the biggest trials in our lives together has been finances. If we're being honest, that's a big trial for us, is trying to figure out how to sustain what He wants for us and for our family. Yeah. But one of the dreams of mine was to have a house, and we still don't own a house, but we were living
at a small apartment.
Yeah, and it was very small.
It was nice. It was just a 2-bedroom, and I really enjoyed it. it was just really small. We have 2 kids, so
that's 4 of us in a tiny apartment with 2 bedrooms.
It was a blessing.
But basically what I'm trying to say is at this time I was like, we're not living here longer than a year. I want to get a house. I want to live in a house. It doesn't have to be huge. I just want to live in a house, and we need to rent it while we figure out how we're going to buy a house eventually. I want to rent a house. And I was all about it. Like, I went searching on Zillow, and I was like, we're going to figure out how to get a house that's not ridiculously expensive, where we can, because also, you know, your bills go up during this time when you get a bigger place. So I was just like, we're going to do this. And then God kept convicting me and saying, you're not going to do that. Like, stop trying.
Like, you're not ready.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really like causing problems in our marriage, because like we would have confrontations like, hey, I would tell her, hey, this business just started. We just started the business. But she was feeling one thing, and you know, I understand where she was coming from, mm-hmm. and I was getting something else. I knew it wasn't ready, mm-hmm. because I was asking the Lord. He was telling me, hey, no, it's not time yet. But you know, as a father and a leader in the house, I really want to make them happy. So we just prayed about it.
And I knew deep down that was not going to happen.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to stop. And so I stopped arguing about it, and I was like, okay, if that's what the Lord wants, I will stay here another year. And that is not what I wanted to do. Like, that was really me just giving it up and submitting to God. And I said, I trust you, and if this is where you want us to be another year, your plans are way higher, and I don't want to do something out of your will. Well, there was times I'd drive by a rental house that was in a nice neighborhood, but smaller, and I would just be like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Let me not look it up on my phone, because the enemy's trying to deceive me right now. That is where it got. And my faith grew so much during this time. And then George ended up working for this lady who had
picked up a job, yeah.
With his lawn care.
Yeah.
And just basically the short version of this story is God literally told George and our other friend, who's a great man of God, that this house was for us. And he was hesitant to tell me, because then now I'm in this mindset of we're not moving. And so he was like, I'm not going to tell him.
So we prayed, me and his name is Paul. Paul told me, hey, you know, this house might be for you guys. And because it was empty, she was trying to rent it out, and she said she was going to rent it out to one of her nieces or something like that. And I said, well, how is that possible? Because like, this is way above our pay rate, our budget, you know. It's a 3-bedroom house, and it's like really nice. There's a lot of good yard. But anyways, we're saying, you know what, I trust God. If it's His will, then you know I'll be happy. You know,
praying about it. He prayed about it for like 2 weeks, and then she ended up telling him that her niece and her decided that it wasn't a good idea to live next to each other. And basically what happened is we ended up moving into the house because it was the Lord.
Wow. Yeah.
It's much bigger, much more room for the kids, and the yard's really big. And it's just been great, because before we couldn't even go outside, and we were trapped during Corona.
We worked out a deal that worked for both of us. That doesn't just happen, you know. Like, the Lord was definitely in all of this.
And the lady who's the landlord is also a Christian who
was praying about,
who was like, I've gotten so many higher offers, but I know that God's going to send the right people. And she felt in her spirit as well that we were to move here, and we've worked out a deal that is perfect for us and her, and it's just been amazing. So we that's just a story of just submitting to God. And it might not seem big to you, but to me it was huge, because having to submit to being in this tiny apartment when I'm the one with the kids all day, and not being able to go outside. And I was like, but God. And then I was like, God, I can't, it's not the work of my hands. And if I would have went and bought or rented out a house and said, this is where we're going to move, it would have been not God's will. It would have been higher in pay, definitely. And it would have been a really bad idea. So I'm really glad that we ended up not doing that.
So that's pretty much surrendering and, you know, having faith in him that whatever he has planned for your life will come to pass when we surrender and, you know, step out in faith and be obedient to when he speaks to us.
And one of the things God keeps like visually showing me is being sprawled out on the floor with your face down saying, I surrender, I surrender. And that doesn't really have to mean physically. It means taking your hands off of the puzzle pieces, trying to put them all together, because you'll never get it right.
Humble yourself, yeah.
And when we humble ourselves and pray and get in secret time with the Lord and spend time with him and worship and thank him, all of the above, when we do all of those things, he gives us spiritual like assurance that that decision is insight, what he wants us to do. And so whenever we see that, it's just going to get easier every time you have to make a decision that doesn't make sense. And we are so excited that he's showing us that and giving us revelation in that, because that's so powerful. Yeah. And it's been powerful in our lives. It's powerful in anybody's lives, but you'll always have trials. You'll always have decisions to make that aren't necessarily easy.
Part of faith, yeah.
And sometimes they aren't during trials, like I said. Sometimes they're during times when things are going good and you just don't want to mess it up. But he's like, hey, do something that doesn't make sense.
It makes you uncomfortable almost. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's just something that's been seriously in our lives, in our faces. And I think it's for everybody, and it's been on our hearts to share. But we are excited to share more videos with you and content when the Lord guides us to. Hopefully it won't be in 2 or 3 weeks again. I don't think it will. I really don't. But we did need that time to just
that was very important. Yeah, we didn't want, like we said in the other videos, we really want to be authentic in everything that we do. And if God tells us, hey, take 2 months off, we're going to do that. If he tells us to record every day, we're going to do that. And we just really want to speak what he wants us to say, or, you know, that's really what we want to do. Just be obedient to the Spirit and
bless others.
Bless others, yeah.
So thank you guys for watching. It's been so great being able to share, and the feedback that we have gotten so far has been really amazing. And I just encourage you to keep commenting. We read every comment, and we are so blessed by them, seriously.
Yeah. Oh, and we should let you know that we are starting a podcast. It's called Jesus Seed Convos. You can find us on pretty much every platform, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I think that's what it's called. You just search Jesus Seed Convos, and you will find us on there. So subscribe there as well, and we would love to get your support on those platforms as well.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you again soon.